Circle. OFMA holds these every month on the first Tuesday. We created these as a forum for open discussion among all the state's markets, and you guys can use this time to focus on issues or concerns that you'd like to discuss with one another. And really it's meant to be a conversation led by you. OFMA supports this by suggesting topics we see emerging or that you've asked to discuss. So I'll pop that into the chat, what we've got going on today. So there's kind of our agenda. I think we'll start with some introductions. I was thinking, because there are a lot of us here, and if we all went through and did introductions, it'll take up our entire time. So I was thinking, if you're new to OFMA, if you've never been to one of these before, haven't been to many of our events, it would be cool if you would come off mute and just say who you are and your pronouns and which market you're with. And otherwise, if you're one of our one of the OFMA fans who's been to a lot of these things before, maybe you could just put in the chat your hello and who you are and where you're from.
Hi all, I'm Janelle. I run the Philomath Farmers Market in Philomath, Oregon. She, her, hers are my pronouns, and I'm happy to join you.
Hi everyone, my name is Sage. I run the Forest Grove and Cornelius Farmers Markets over in Washington County in Oregon under Adelante Mujeres, a nonprofit. It was my first peer learning circle, so it's good to see you all.
Hi, I'm Joel Karras. I'm not actually a market manager. I'm the program manager, the new program manager with Farmers Market Fund, which runs the statewide Double Up Food Bucks program. Probably a lot of you know. And so I just asked to kind of join in so I can kind of hear some of the stuff going on with bookkeeping, since that's relevant to my new position, and just kind of understand where the markets are at, things like that. So pronouns are he, him, and thanks for letting me sit in.
Hi, my name's Michaela. I am the new market manager for St. John's Farmers Market. My pronouns are she, her, and I attended boot camp, but this is my first peer learning circle, so thanks for having me.
Hi, this is Tamara. My pronouns are she and they. I'm with People's Farmers Market, and this is my first peer learning circle too, so thank you.
Hi, I'm Becky White. I'm going to be I use she, her pronouns. I'm going to be the market manager at Claskenai Farmers Market this year. I've been to many OFMA events, but this is my first peer learning circle, and I'm joining you from my other job, which is a veterinary hospital. So I'm actually sitting in my car trying to figure out how to work Zoom on my phone. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Anyone else want to chime in with saying hello? Okay, then I think I'll just put in our topic for today again. I had heard that people were wanting to talk about better ways to do bookkeeping and accounting for token tracking and that kind of thing. So I thought I'd just open up the space for you guys to talk about how you do it at your markets and anything that works for you. Or if you're really having trouble with it, you can also ask questions about what's going on at your market, and hope to see if other market managers might have some ideas for you. I know that Stephanie from St. John's Farmers Market had some ideas, and she doesn't have a lot of time today. So I was just going to call on her first so that she could talk about what's going on at her market.
Yeah, thanks so much for inviting me. I think probably a lot of folks would look at our process and say that it is probably pretty painfully analog. And there is actually a reason for that. So we are a small neighborhood market in Portland that takes place on Saturday. In Portland, there are a lot of bigger markets that also take place on Saturday. So we tend to fill kind of a business incubator role. Oftentimes when our vendors get into those larger markets, they say goodbye to St. John's until they're ready to expand to hiring staff, which takes a certain amount of time. So just wanted to give you a little bit of context that a lot of our vendors may not speak English as a first language, may not have a lot of tech savvy. There's certainly more efficient ways to do this on our end, but the reason that we've stuck with the analog process is to meet our vendors where they are and to provide that opportunity for them. So this is our box here that has a it's a hanging file box. And inside of it, there are different file folders that are labeled with, so these are all the numerical vendors that we have, 503 Distilling and 3 Little Mushrooms, but it goes through alphabetically so that we can easily find each vendor's baggie on market day. And at the beginning of the market day, we go around to all the vendors and we give them their baggie. So this is the 503 Distilling baggie. And inside of the baggie, there is a cheat sheet, a guide to the currencies that we accept. Generally, they leave that in the bag every week and it's still there when it comes back, but we just want them to have it on site because not every vendor is managing their own booth. A lot of them are hiring staff and they may not have given their staff very much onboarding when it comes to how to do these things. So we want to make sure they have this. They're always welcome to come check in with us at the info booth, but we want them to have it there handy. And then also in the bag is their daily accounting sheet. And on this sheet, it has their name, their business name, the date. They have to tell us their sales for the day. And we encourage them to fill out how many tokens of each type they've accepted. Basically, we make a photocopy of this and return it to them with their check. We do not do any reconciliation on site. It takes many hours to reconcile because like a baggie like this might be completely full of tokens and then some at the end of the day. And the number of vendors we have, it would take far too long to do that reconciliation on site. It takes us about, a good chunk of a business day to complete all the reconciliation, cut all the checks. We did start offering ACH this year, but not very many of our vendors signed up for that through like a bill pay, just a simple bill pay out of our bank account. So they just put all the tokens in the bag and we take them back to the office. We count them all. We sign off on this sheet, copy it, give them a check, put the check in there with the receipt, which is just a copy of what they submitted, and put it in an envelope and then put it in the bag. And then the next week when they come, they open their bag and there's their check and then they put the next week's tokens in. I can't think of anything else. So yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Stephanie. I love the physical show and tell. We got to actually see what you're doing and see the folders. And I should add, if anybody in this process wants to be able to share a screen and show what their show a worksheet or anything that they're using, you're welcome to do that too. Who would like to talk next?
I can talk next.
Thanks, Lisa.
So we do something really similar. We have our packets, similar to the baggies. And in the packets, we have a couple papers as well. One thing that I'll note, which I really like for vendors that have a lot of tokens, we do have a smaller bag for the $5 ones specifically. So they're just already separated when we get them because they have to count them anyway. So they already separate them. And then I'm going to share my screen. Cool. So in the packets, this is their token reimbursement form. So on here, the vendors, similar to St. John's, they'll like count their tokens and put the numbers. And then on this side is our office count. And so this is the total that will reimburse them for the day. So we just use like one form for multiple months, just so the vendors can kind of look back and see what the reimbursement. And then similar, we have a little cheat sheet just in case folks need a reminder of like what they can accept. In the packets, we also have the gross sales reporting. So yeah, similar to St. John's. We have it where there are a lot of markets on one sheet for a couple of reasons, like honestly, just so we didn't have to deal with a bunch of different papers for every market. And then also some vendors like to take home their money and count it, and then they can report it the next week. It's also kind of a way where they can look back and like see how they were doing and just analyze their own gross sales. We also ask for their rating, poor to excellent, because the gross sales like totally, for one vendor, the same amount might be poor and another could be excellent. So our assistant market manager takes home all the tokens and counts them. And then they fill out this token form. So this is kind of, this is new this year. I have it so one market is here and then you go over this way, and this is just each market, and you can like hide the previous markets if you want. But ideally, at the end of the season, when you have to do your Double Up Food Bucks reporting, one second, you can just kind of do formulas. So like here is just all of these added up throughout the whole season. It does get kind of tedious when you have a lot of markets for the main season, but once you do it once, so like you can just drag down that same formula and it'll automatically populate. We also do the ACH and check. I think this season we're going to move to only ACH unless there's like a really dire need for the checks. We only do our checks once a month. And so having ACH, which is that direct deposit, that goes weekly. And so it's actually usually better for the vendor to get that money weekly. At the bottom of this page, these automatically count the number of tokens. So if you have that, it automatically populates here, which then goes into our token totals. And then this is the amount that we reimburse at the end of the market. And this is, you have to have this for your Double Up Food Buck reporting as well. Down here, the assistant market manager will put in these totals by, we just do like a filter. So if you filter this, then you can take out the ACHs and then get the sum, and same with the checks. And then they'll fill this out and then I'll double check it. And then this is the total amount that will actually reimburse with the ACH, which is what I do each week. I also have this information here because this is what you would get from your customer daily record sheet. And this is all stuff that has to be reported weekly. So just kind of nice to have it all in one spot. We also, I know this is, we're talking about tokens, but really quick, like this is how we're doing our stall fees this year too. So for instance, these are what each of these vendors will owe. Our farms pay 42 in the winter. This is one of our beginning BIPOC food artisans. So they pay a reduced fee. This farm has 2 stalls. And then we have some folks that pay a percentage because they don't meet our sourcing requirements. So this is like where Summer will report their sales. We'll put all this information, the sales ratings. And then Saul, Becky, or no, here we'll do LEGs. They were there, so I put a 1. And this formula is just that times that minus what they actually paid. So say they accidentally only paid $20, then this will automatically populate to say they have 5, or they owe 5 for the market. Or if they did the whole thing, then oh, they don't owe any. because this person wasn't there, they don't owe anything for the market. And then this is how I do my invoicing. So Allie's G's was there for the 23rd, but didn't pay anything, so they owe 25 for the month. Just really quick, that's something new that we're doing. And then, so back to tokens, we also have our keeping track of how many we actually sold. So this number will be, say we start with 500 $5 tokens and you end up with 200, so that means we sold 300. These numbers, ideally you'd be able to double check them with like your batch reports, or if you had any fees, or however much people buy it with merchandise too with a credit card. You have to like kind of, the $5 ones are kind of harder. The $1 ones are a little bit more straightforward. But ideally these numbers will match what your like batch report says. Sometimes it doesn't. And then you get to kind of do the process of trying to figure that out, like what actually went wrong. And let's see. Oh yeah, this is just our market day sheet. So this is what we fill out every market. Our info booth person will like put the start count in, and then at the end of the day, we put the end, and that's how we keep track of those. They'll also keep track of if someone like wants to buy the debit card tokens with a check or cash, merchandise sales, donations, and then we have our customer counts here as well. Yeah, I think that was all of the things I was going to share about that. I guess for like bookkeeping wise, so this is what I'll send to our bookkeeper, Kelly. I'll do it once a month. So in this main, in the main folder is kind of like our bank reports. This is our check total for the month, PayPal report, the Novadia. But then within each month is like our deposit report. This is, oh, just kidding, it won't let me click on it. But right here is where I separate out like how much people, our total ACH reimbursement, total check reimbursement, and give those numbers to our bookkeeper. We have our batch report. This is the ACH confirmation. So once I give all the money to the vendors, I give it to Kelly so she can double check, make sure I did it right. And then our deposit receipt as well. Yeah, and so that's everything that we give. And then of course the like all of our receipts of stuff I bought for the market. Yeah, that's what I give our bookkeeper.
Wow, awesome. That was a wealth of information, Lisa, and your spreadsheets are really beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm happy to share, like the one I showed you is like a specific one that I've shared with other markets before. So happy to share that as well.
Great. I'm sure that would help out a lot of folks here. Anyone else who would like to talk next?
Yeah, I can share. I'll share my screen as well. Where is it? Okay. So I'll just start out with, this is our vendor reimbursement form, and probably like a lot of the other market managers, you kind of inherited other formats or templates. And this is my first year like running the market. Last year I was an assistant manager. So I still want to change some things to make it just more user-friendly for us. But anyway, this is our vendor reimbursement form. So the vendors get this in there. We get like little bank bags, and they fill it out weekly, and we collect it every week as well. And this is where we like verify it by the market. When the vendor like types in, they got 4 of those or whatever, we'll do a little like red check mark to show that that's the correct number, or cross it out with our red pen and write the number that they actually got. And this form is for our vendors who accept all these different currencies. So this is mostly for farmers, also for farmers. This is for vendors who maybe have, I'm blanking on who would have this, but it would be like 20 29 Kettle, for example, where it's like nuts that can accept SNAP tokens and our debit tokens. And this is just for vendors who have like wine or non-food products. And we have another cheat sheet too that works, but I don't love it. And let me see if I can just move that. All right. Right here is our token accounting form. So say we got, we're working with a farm vendor. This is the template that we use. Each vendor has their own tab at the bottom with a different color. So again, the orange is for vendors who can accept everything. Green is for like specialty food vendors, and red is for like artisan or hot food or wine or things like that. These are just random numbers I made up, but you can see we have like the token totals here. We have the amount totals here. And this is the total for the month. And then it goes by month. And down at the bottom, we have the total amount for each vendor. And you can see this in the summary sheet where I just end up going, you can press like enter and go back to the form and find EBT and press tab and you get that number. Happy to go into more detail with the formulas individually, but this is still a work in progress. I'm still working on it for this year. And then for the green, you can see the columns, there's only for EBT and debit tokens with the totals at the bottom, and with red, it's only debit tokens. And so at the end of each month, we reimburse monthly with a check. And this is our reimbursement form. We'll have the vendor business name, the make check payable to, and that's what they include on their form that we print out for them, their mailing address. And a lot of this is for Double Up Food Bucks reporting, where we have SNAP, Double Up Food Bucks account, or Double Up Food Bucks count, and then the dollar amount and number of debit tokens, or sorry, the value of debit tokens. These right here are more for our finance, but are useful for us. We have a few different other tokens and market currencies we use, so we kind of keep that separate with a check totals here. And of course, all the totals of each type of token down here too. Then there's space for the check number and check date. And for the daily like summary token accounting, last year we had a whole separate form. So right now we're at 3 different forms for inputting for each market, and we have 2 markets. So that's 6 spreadsheets that we're opening up each day, and that can be a lot to keep track of. So I want to condense this down into kind of something that like Lisa had from Montevilla, where we can kind of keep track of like what was returned from vendors and what was returned from the market, like in our box, just all in one spreadsheet. And in a way that's easy to count and like draw numbers from, because right now, when I did the data collection at the end of last year's market, I was going through like each spreadsheet and like adding the numbers up just on my calculator, and that did not work well. But yeah, having the space for the like WIC and senior FDNP, EBT transactions, and all that important information, and our different incentives for Adelante Mujeres. So whether that's like the volunteer tokens, or we had live music, or vaccine vouchers, we had a few different things. Yeah, so that's what I have to share. And I guess my main question and the thing that I'm looking for from you all too is how to make that data collection and organizing easier too, because right now we have just a lot of different spreadsheets, and how can it be easier to have all the information there? So here's one more thing too, just a quick example of what I'm thinking of for that data tracking is to just have like the market dates here, And then the token amounts here, this is what we like get back from the market each day or from the vendors. And then kind of those like FDNP and Double Up Food Bucks tracking as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sage. 6 spreadsheets, wow. It's a lot to keep track of. I know I have some questions. I see a few questions coming up in chat. I wonder if other people have questions or you want to start share what you do at your market, jump in, or I can throw out some questions too.
I actually had a quick, I don't know if this is switching gears too much, but I had a question about ACH. We reimburse vendors weekly and we have about 70% signed up for ACH. And there's this remaining 30% that will turn in tokens every single week. And it just, and often for very small amounts. And I would love to not have to be writing those checks each week and not having our check signer come in every single week. And I'm just wondering how many people are using ACH for reimbursement, and like or I guess how many people are requiring their vendors to be reimbursed through ACH. And if anybody if we were to try to require that, like, can anyone think of potential problems or reasons why we shouldn't? Yeah, just want to think that through a bit.
Can I answer? Go ahead.
We use ACH. I cannot imagine going back to writing checks. It is very time consuming to set it up. You need to make most of the vendors do it. You need to create an incentive so they feel pressure to do it, because they may have an irrational fear that ACH is somehow dangerous. And, you know, it's been around since the 70s. It's really not high tech, but the only issue is that I have is that I don't want to, because of my ACH and how it works, I don't want to put a memo on each one that says exactly the breakdown of that check. And I wouldn't want to if it was checks either. It's just too labor intensive, and the ACH that I have is too brittle. It'll flip off after, you know, it'll just, if I move my cursor the wrong way, it'll just go off and I'll lose a half hour of work. So I can't tolerate that. And so that may be particular to my credit union's ACH system and my use of a Mac laptop, but that is one problem I have with it. Everybody knows that Double Up Food Bucks wants you to be able to identify the Double Up Food Bucks reimbursed by vendor. That's a problem in any system we have. I'm struggling with that myself. I've redone all my spreadsheets, hoping that I finally can get it so it will automatically give me that data. And so I have to thank Hollywood for giving me their spreadsheet, which at least that part of it worked. I have a question, the last speaker. Why are you tracking FDNP when those are actually turned in by the vendor to their own bank?
Yeah, I was just about to type a response to someone else was asking how I got that tracked. So we have our own FDNP match program.
Okay.
Yeah, so it is the matching of it. So we kind of track it like Double Up Food Bucks. We write the last 4 digits of the person's WIC or EBT card. And then we write the number of checks we're going to double, the amount that would be, yeah, and I believe that's it. And so, yeah, it's a match that I'm talking.
You're not taking permanent physical custody of the check, the voucher. No. You're simply gathering the data you need so that you can double it. And who's going to say no to that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're just doubling it. I don't know all of the checks that get spent at the market, just the ones that are doubled.
To go back to the ACH and possible problems, one thing that I've run into, not a ton, but for our bank, we can only do a maximum of like $5,000 at one time. There's a time where I was trying to do 2 markets together and it's like, oh, you can't do that. Or like for our affiliate pantry event, we had over $5,000 that we had to reimburse for one day. And so it's just, you just had to break it up in 2 days, but it was just a little annoying. So that's something to think about. Depending on your bank, what the max is.
Lisa, couldn't you go to your financial institution and get those limits raised?
Possibly. I just didn't at the time.
I had to do that last year. I think I raised mine to maybe $10,000 at a time and $75,000 for the month where it had been 50,000. And I think I busted both of those at least once I could. And it was never, you know, I set those limits myself years ago and I set them what I thought was crazy high. But so, and I'm not saying this is easy because you're probably going to have to sign a welter of paper just to make this change, but it might be worth it. Does anyone have ideas on how your spreadsheet can pull out the double up by vendor better so that you can list the exact dollar amount of double up reimbursed to each vendor over the whole season?
Yeah, this year we did it where the whole season is going to be on one like tab. And then you have to go in and do the formula of like that plus that for the same vendor for every market. But then if you just do it once, then you can drag it down for all of the vendors.
Oh, okay. I fixed it and I realized I answered the right question. The problem is anyone else trying to apply double up to online orders? Well, we are, and it's very difficult to get those little pieces into that bigger hole that Lisa just talked about. So I'm doing it for the winter market right now because there's only 3 people. I can handle that. But I think when we get to regular season, I'm going to stop trying to apply double up onto online orders and only apply the SNAP. Because from what I'm understanding, Farmers Market Fund, they care about the SNAP, but they aren't being held accountable by their funder to on the SNAP to the same persnickety degree that they are on the double up. And I know they're not just torturing us; they're doing this because someone else is torturing them. Mallory's on there. Yeah. So yeah, I've been talking about this with Mallory, and so I am very, I'm just very interested. If anyone has figured out a way to apply double up online and account for it properly, that might save me from dropping it. But I think that maybe just handing in the vouchers is going to be my solution.
Rebecca, what is the software that you're using for the online processing?
I use LFM, Local Food Marketplace.
Okay.
And that brings up a good thing. When we finally get true online SNAP, things will be different.
Yeah, if that ever happens, which hopefully it will.
Well, you guys know the grant, that there's a big grant that went to the MarketLink people as the lead entity.
Yeah, I think so. I'm just going to jump in because that it's in development. It may be here in a few years or less. And we will have another one of these sessions on that kind of thing. But I want to make sure that people's current questions with their current systems, that they get to talk about that right now. if people have more questions or want to show more stuff that they do.
I have a comment just after seeing what Lisa shared, because I noticed that she is using columns instead of tabs for each of the market dates. And the tabs are really nice because you can click into each market day, but what's difficult is that every year, even though your market season might stay the same, the dates change. And in our current system, we have to go into each date and rename it, versus if that were instead data in the spreadsheet itself, you could use a formula, which is what we did here. So you can see here's May 7th, and then May 14th is just May 7 plus 7. And that just saves a ton of time of like typing each individual date into the spreadsheet. So I think from like a day-to-day, it's easier to have the tabs, but I also am now thinking I might steal Lisa's idea just so that I don't have to type each number 26 times.
So when you have the tabs, do you have a wonderful formula that adds up stuff from all the tabs?
We use Google Sheets because a lot of people access the sheet and are working on the sheet at the same time. And it does not have the same functionality as Excel, unfortunately.
What if you created that in Excel and uploaded it? Would it go away?
Might be worth a try. I don't know.
Yeah, every now and again when I find a barrier in Google Sheets, and I think, I think that I'm doing everything in Google Sheets now because otherwise collaborating is very hard. But I mean, it might be worth dragging it down into Excel and then uploading it and seeing, with no data in it, just give it a test run and see if that would work, because that's kind of been stopping me from trying that. Also, the Google Sheets problem. And not that I'm good at it in Excel either, but Mr. Google would tell you eventually.
I've found that going back and forth between Google Sheets and Excel, things are not preserved. And in these spreadsheets that are very complicated, it's hard to find when the thing that's not preserved between the two systems.
Oh, yeah, it could be a very.
So to me, it feels like I'm
risky.
I want to keep it all in the same place. I guess I have a question for you guys, and maybe this will help some of the people who are new to this, who haven't created their own spreadsheets. How do you learn Excel and Google Sheets? Have you just learned it on the job and figured it out? Do you ask other people for help? Do you watch demos? Do you just try things? For the people who are looking at these spreadsheets and going, oh my gosh, I'll never be able to create one of those. I don't know anything about Google Sheets or Excel. Maybe they might like to hear from some of you that have put these together and what you did to be able to get there and be able to do this.
I often have to Google, like, how can I make Excel do blah, 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 or how can I make Google Sheets do X, and read a bunch of pages or look at videos and stuff like that, just like you're saying. Stephanie said something about has an MBA, and I was a friggin' state budget analyst, and they didn't teach me how to run spreadsheets. I had to go take a class to learn. I was a trainee in the state budget office, and they weren't training me how to do a spreadsheet. And then they put me in charge of a very large spreadsheet that had every bizarre little revenue source that the cities and the state have together.
Janelle?
Yeah, so I was just going to say, I think that I have my master's, and that was really where I mastered spreadsheets more than maybe anything else. But I think the important thing is thinking before you even sit down at the computer, thinking hard and really kind of organizing your thoughts of what you want out of this. If you want yearly totals at the end of the year, then having a tab with each market date makes it clunky. So those kinds of things of thinking really as much as you can through what you want in the columns and the rows and what you want out of it at the end of the day, I think helps me to be able to organize what can sometimes seem like a jumble of too many thoughts, where maybe I feel like I want 6 spreadsheets, right? But then I think sometimes you can get them into fewer, but also when you're inheriting other folks' data, those can be difficult to work with. But I also just wanted to ask if anyone else is using Manage My Market. I know I just spoke with you, Melissa, you said you are. Is anyone else using that, and how do you feel about the effectiveness of it?
Janelle, do you mean in relation to token tracking, or do you mean in general for like all the things somebody might be using Manage My Market for?
Mostly in general, but also because that's what we're talking about, focusing on tokens, but just kind of, I mean, I don't know.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I just wanted to make sure people know what to jump in with when they answer.
Okay, so yes, we use Manage My Market. This is the 3rd year I've been in here, the 3rd year that we're using Manage My Market. We have not used the sheets before for this, only because I was learning my job and COVID and everything all at once. We are re-looking at how we are going to start recording stuff, because I inherited some programs that are not the best. And that's one piece that I'm looking at, is doing some of the tutorials through Manage My Market to see if that's how we want to do it. I know some of other people do use it. I have not ventured into that world, but that's my next step. And thank you to the 2 people I asked for them to send me theirs so that I can try and figure out my world. Thanks, guys.
Pretty much all the companies have some kind of a way to do data recording, and I would assume that all of them give you a way to extract that data into a CSV file. And if you can get a CSV file, then you can open that in Excel, and or I'm assuming, can you suck a CSV up into Google Sheets too? Does anyone know?
I would assume so, but I guess I don't really know.
Yeah, well, at any rate, any kind of data extraction online, it either comes out already done to an Excel or it's a CSV. And chances are, with these kind of like Manage My Market, I haven't used it for a number of years, so I can't say, but I know that MarketWorks extracts to a CSV format, which then I can take. I actually use LibreOffice now because I'm cheap, but I use Google Sheets primarily for this kind of thing.
Thanks.
I have Market Spread, which is, sorry, Joel.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I've definitely brought CSVs in the Google Sheets for you. You can't do that.
Yeah, I use Market Spread, which is similar but different than Manage My Market. And that's something I'm working on this year too, is to see if I can get the data like from Market Spread into a spreadsheet, which is totally possible. But yeah, just tracking other things about the vendors and their other like sales with like cash or card. We only have like 2 vendors that input that into Market Spread, so don't want to rely on that exactly. I guess that's another question I have too, is how do you all get your like vendor sales information? We have like a tiny line on our vendor reimbursement form, but it doesn't get used much. I saw, Lisa, you had a whole other sheet that you ask for vendor sales tracking. But yeah, just learning how to shift over to that.
So vendor sales tracking is like a whole big other subject too. And I'd love to do something on that with you guys also. And also just to let you know that we're going to be reporting back on all those census figures that we asked you guys for this winter, hopefully sometime in March. And we are thinking of including in that presentation some strategies and ways for you guys to help do vendor sales tracking, and so that we can get even better data from you all next year when we do the census. So that is something I hope will be coming up soon.
Yeah, I loved what Lisa said about how good sales for one vendor are not necessarily good sales for another vendor. Like, we've not in the past tracked their satisfaction with the level of sales, but like, for example, we have one vendor who sells pizzas and he only makes one pizza at a time and he only has one oven. And I was like, why don't you get another oven? You can make so many more pizzas. He was like, I just don't want to. I like the quality. So, but he's satisfied with his lower sales because he wants to keep the quality high and he doesn't want to hire any help. So yeah, I really like that. Thanks, Lisa.
I think that was probably Amanda that started that.
So yeah, I used to manage Montevilla Market, for those who don't know, and but actually that idea came from Gretchen, who was the market manager before me, although I made it go.
Megan, did you have something that you wanted to say?
I have a question unrelated to the current conversation. So if we want to keep going on this, I can wait.
Cool. I was just really quick for folks who do the market by tab. That's what we did last year. And I just wanted to show you, so this is like our 2021. We have all of our, the counts, their sales, everything. And then at the end of the year, doing the snap totals is just kind of a pain because we don't have the same exact vendors for every single market. So like these are formulas where I just like equal, and then I would go to that, now I don't know what I'm doing, that market and like get all the information. But then if like later down we had another spring farm, then I had to like add that in and it just got complicated. And so it is possible, but it is just a pain.
Yeah, the way, I'm going to share mine again, the way that we addressed that was basically when you're in each week, the vendors always have to be put in every week, whether or not they're there in the same order. And you can sort the list after that. But when you initially put them in, we had some people that got added late in the season. So then we had to go back and add them to every line. Yeah, I think the columns might be the better way to go, even though you'll have to hop around a little bit more.
Megan, I know you have a question, and we'll get to that right next. I just want to recognize you guys and go back to something Janelle said about when you're making these spreadsheets and when you start and you really think about what it is you're going for, the information you want at the end. And I just want to recognize all the work that takes and how much effort putting these spreadsheets and tracking this stuff is. And that when you guys are doing, hopefully you're getting to have annual job reviews with your board or your supervisors and talking about this kind of work that you do that I think really is not often recognized by the people who are paying you. And yeah, I want you to get recognized for this work that you're doing. Megan, what was your question?
So I'm wondering if anyone has a spreadsheet or template, and these are really beautiful spreadsheets. I'm very impressed by all of it. We use QuickBooks and I am not skilled with Excel or Google Sheets even, but I'm wondering if anyone has a template that they're using to track the organization's costs for their running their SNAP program or Double Up Food Bucks program, or both of them together, really. That's something that we haven't really been doing, but the survey that Amanda sent out recently kind of made me think about it a little bit. Maybe we should have a better understanding of what it actually costs the organization to run our SNAP program.
we use QuickBooks, but I have not figured out how to allocate staff time. Like that just seems like a level of complexity that's going to be, I mean, if we write for a grant, I'm just going to estimate based on the number of hours they spend each week. I'm not going to do that in QuickBooks. But one thing that we did do in QuickBooks was token revenue, like money in related to the tokens, and then token related, like writing the checks going out. And then you can kind of put them against each other and see what's the difference basically. But yeah, I've thought about what you're saying, like pulling out costs that are specifically related to food access as opposed to just the market operations. It's really tricky because a lot of the costs are hidden. Like for example, the money that you spend for your terminal and your transaction fees, that might, I don't know, for some people it might come in as a separate transaction, but for other folks, when it hits the bank account, maybe it's just a deduction in the revenue. So you'd have to like manually figure out how much of that is a cost. And that's just, again, too much work. So yeah, I hear you 100% on how hard it is to ask for money for things that are almost invisible costs.
Yeah, a lot of, there's a tension between doing things the most efficient way and documenting the crap out of them. And the most efficient, and I always go for the most efficient way because I have limited resources. And then when someone asks me in a survey, I have to use the WAG method, which stands for wild ass guess. And that's, I'm not proud of that, but it's just, there's this tension there, and we face it every day, but and maybe people make it, maybe people go the other direction if they think they can pull it off.
We're getting close to noon and the end of our time. I'm curious what other topics you guys might like to talk about in the coming months. If there's things you want me to put out there as the thing that we'll be talking about, or I'm also like just happy to have these sessions come up every month and have you guys decide on the spot when you show up what you'd like to talk about too.
I want to see what everyone's market site looks like. I want to know if people are using private property. I want to know if people are doing road closures. I want to know what the surfaces look like. Is it gravel? Is it paved? Yeah, that's what, and how are they marking the booths, like the physical surface that they operate on.
Yeah, that makes me wonder, like, you see I'm in my car out in the world. Maybe we walk around with our cameras and show it to each other in live. Maybe not a market, but just like, here are the little notches made with a concrete saw that in the valley gutter that show me my 10-foot intervals. They're hard to see, but they're interesting if you're a market manager.
I would totally love that. I think that's a great idea for you guys to actually be out on your market sites showing each other what you're doing. If not actually that, if you took some pictures and showed that we could screen share them, that would be so cool.
Yeah, that actually is probably smarter than trying to turn your camera from a Zoom.
Hey, Al, I have a quick question. Really basic. Does anybody have a trick for counting tokens? Or I'd like to hear how people keep their tokens counted. Like, we keep them in those fluorescent light tubes, and we keep 100 of them in a tube. I'm just curious what other people do.
Ziplocks. What I'm interested in these fluorescent light tubes, though.
That was a Suzanne Briggs. No, they're plastic, and they're like the round things, and they're about that big. and we put a cap on either end, and we put 100 of them in. So they fit the tokens perfectly.
Well, I use Ziplocks, and if those hold up better, then there'd be less plastic waste.
They've held up for a lot of years.
Yeah, the Ziplocks are an ongoing thing. Now we do need the Ziplocks because we have to get the tokens back from the vendors in the Ziplocks. But if the ones that we give out to the customers were in those tubes instead, I might be a happier person.
Yeah. Does anybody else have other tricks for, I know it's super basic, but other tricks for counting or storing tokens?
Casino trays. Trays, plastic. And buy them from Casino Supply. Don't buy them from the token people makers.
I've been so tempted by some of those machines that claim to count all the tokens. It just takes so long. I've been so tempted.
Do they count wooden tokens?
No, they do not. They count metal tokens. And metal tokens are a workers' comp issue that you don't need. Because someone's going to have to lift those tubs full of metal tokens.
Oh, gotcha.
So I strongly recommend against going this way, as tempting as it is.
They can also be weighed. They're very accurate.
Yeah, I've thought about that.
Metal tokens are very accurate, but still you're lifting them.
No, the wooden ones, to weigh the wooden ones.
I do.
Oh, you weigh the wooden ones?
Yeah.
I do that, but it's only for like ballpark. I don't think if you're one token off in a bag of 100, your scale is not going to tell you that for sure. But if you use the same kind of container, it's consistent. You can tell, you get a weight, like it'll be anywhere from 0.22 to 0.24 of a pound. And if it's anything not in that range, then you know that you screwed up.
I just go by grams.
Grams sound good.
It's accurate.
Even if the tokens get wet?
I haven't had any wet tokens yet.
Well, they not only change weight, but they get curly.
Oh, absolutely.
And then they develop biological properties that you didn't know they had.
We also use just baggies for tokens, and we'll put like a rubber band around 100. And then so if you don't have to open it, then you can at the end of the market just be like, oh, that's 100.
Yep. Okay, thanks.
This is going to sound really messed up, but there have been moments where I'm like, why do we count them at all? They're only off by like 1 or 2. What's the big deal? We're paying someone, minimum wage for all this time and effort of counting the tokens to save $2 when we're actually losing money by paying them to count them. But yeah, that's a horrible comment.
Well,
I get it. After years and years of counting tokens, you get tired of it.
Yeah, but it's you still have to figure out if you're in the ballpark at least. Like if you forgot that you put 500 tokens in 5 minutes before you left the house, kind of thing. Done that. I've also taken 300 out and forgotten I did it. Scared my staff half to death.
Okay, you guys, we are at noon. Time is over, but thank you all for coming.